What if I told you 1,000,000 people died building one wall, their bodies entombed in the very stones they placed? China hides secrets that defy belief. A fishing village that became a 17 million person megacity in 40 years. An army of 8,000 stone warriors buried for over 2 millennia, discovered by accident. Mountains so impossible, they inspired alien worlds. But none of these mysteries compare to what we're about to uncover first. A palace so sacred that its builders believed even one extra room would anger the gods themselves. 1 million workers. 14 years. And a city no ordinary person could enter for 5 centuries. The Forbidden City wasn't just built. It was conjured into existence by an emperor who believed himself the son of heaven. Deserving a palace that would make mortals tremble. "980 buildings rise across grounds larger than the Vatican and Monaco combined. Every roof tile, every carved dragon, every crimson pillar placed according to cosmic geometry. The center of the universe, or so the emperors claimed. 24 rulers would pace these courtyards surrounded by 10,000 servants and concubines. Yet utterly alone behind walls that kept the world out and secrets in. At golden hour, the glazed roof tiles catch fire. The Hall of Supreme Harmony glows like something not quite real. The moat holds the reflection of 600 years still and waiting. "8,000 soldiers stood guard for over 2,000 years, and not one of them blinks." In 1974, farmers digging a well broke through to an underground empire no one knew existed. Row after row of terracotta warriors emerged from the earth, life-sized, armed, frozen mid-march toward eternity. Emperor Qin Shi Huang commissioned this silent army around 210 BC to protect him in death. But here's what stops you cold. Every single face is different. 8,000 individual portraits. Different cheekbones, different brows, different expressions. Some look weary. Some look fierce. Some look barely old enough to fight. The excavation pits stretch like open graves filled with clay men who never breathed but somehow feel present. At golden hour, shadows fill the hollows of their eyes. Dust particles drift through the light. They've been waiting 22 centuries. They can wait a little longer. The fishermen here don't fish anymore. They pose. Their cormorant birds perch on bamboo rafts at dawn. Tourists snap photos, and an ancient livelihood becomes theater. But rewind 2,000 years, and these same waters carried Qin dynasty traders through peaks that shouldn't exist. Limestone towers punch straight up from the riverbed, some climbing 1,000 meters, carved not by human hands, but by rain falling for 300 million years. Acid-eating stone, grain by grain, until the impossible remains. At first light, mist pools in the valleys between karst pillars. The water goes still as glass, and suddenly you see two mountain ranges, one reaching up, one reaching down. Bamboo groves soften the banks. A raft drifts through its own reflection. Somewhere ahead, a cormorant spreads its wings, waiting for a camera that will never understand what it replaced. At 8,849 meters, the air holds only 1/3 the oxygen your body demands. Your lungs burn. Your blood thickens. And still, they climb. Everest doesn't care about human ambition. It simply exists, ancient limestone and marine fossils pushed skyward when continents collided 60 million years ago. Yes, fossils. The highest point on Earth was once an ocean floor. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first to stand where clouds form beneath your feet. The summit they reached catches first light before anywhere else in the region. The peak blazing gold while valleys below remain in shadow. Khumbu icefall groans and shifts, a frozen river that swallows the careless. Glacial lakes mirror the mountain's impossible geometry. Prayer flags snap in winds that never stop. A climber pauses at the south call, headlamp piercing darkness, one step closer to sky. In 1842, foreign warships forced open a fishing village. Today, 24 million people live in what they created. Shanghai doesn't remember its wounds. It builds over them. The bund still stands, those granite banks and trading houses where Europeans counted fortunes extracted from a nation. Across the Huangpu River, the Shanghai Tower spirals 632 meters into haze. Second tallest on Earth, its twisted glass skin a middle finger to history. Golden hour transforms the confrontation into something stranger. Colonial stone glows amber while futuristic spires catch fire, 2 centuries facing each other across black water. In Yu Garden, tourists photograph Ming Dynasty pavilions while delivery drones hum overhead. An elderly man practices Tai Chi beneath a digital billboard. "20,000 kilometers. Not a typo. A wall longer than the distance from New York to Sydney, built by hand across some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. And here's what the textbooks skip. This isn't one wall. It's hundreds. Fragments built by warring states over 2,000 years, eventually stitched together into a single impossible spine across northern China. At golden hour, the stone catches fire. The wall doesn't sit on the mountains. It becomes them, rising and falling with every ridge, every valley, vanishing into morning mist like it never ends. Because it doesn't, really. Watchtowers stand every 500 meters, their windows still facing north, still watching for an invasion that stopped coming centuries ago. You walk these stones, and your footsteps land where soldiers once ran with torches, passing warnings across an empire. "24 emperors ruled from a palace their own servants couldn't enter without permission to die. For 5 centuries, the Forbidden City existed as the most exclusive address on Earth. "180 acres of vermilion walls and golden roofs that common eyes were forbidden to see. Beijing built itself around this absence, this magnificent void at its center. 3,000 years of continuous habitation pressing against gates that wouldn't open. Now the gates stand wide. Tourists flood courtyards where eunuchs once whispered state secrets. At golden hour, the light catches those famous roofs and turns them molten. While just beyond the ancient walls, glass towers catch the same sun. You can stand in the old Hutong alleyways, narrow lanes unchanged for generations, and watch the reflection of a city racing toward tomorrow play across windows from another century. A woman falls in love with a mortal man. She's punished for it, imprisoned beneath a pagoda for 1,000 years. This isn't mythology to the people of Hangzhou. It's geography. Westlake exists in that rare space where legend has soaked so deeply into landscape that separating the two becomes impossible. The broken bridge where the lovers first met still spans the water. Lefang Pagoda, rebuilt after collapsing in 1924, still stands guard over her supposed prison. At At dawn, mist lifts off 6 square kilometers of water that poets have been writing about for 2 millennia. Lotus flowers drift in Qiwan Garden. Cherry blossoms drop petals onto paths worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims and painters. The pagoda catches first light, its reflection rippling gold across the surface where, if you believe the story, a white snake still waits. Most cities fight rivers. This one married a mountain. "30 million people live where no city should exist, stacked vertically across peaks and gorges. There are apartments climbing slopes so steep that your neighbor's front door might align with your 10th floor window. Elevators here run sideways. Highways thread through living rooms. During World War II, when Japanese bombs rained down, this impossible terrain became China's last stronghold. Its cliffs hiding a provisional capital that refused to fall. Golden hour transforms the chaos into something almost logical. Fog rises from the Yangtze, softening the geometry of glass and concrete erupting from rock. Neon flickers to life in layers, each ridge revealing another tier of the city above. A megacity built on defiance of gravity, of invasion, of the very idea of flat ground. James Cameron's team searched the planet for a landscape that looked alien. They found it here. "300 million years of erosion carved over 3,000 sandstone pillars from an ancient seabed, each one standing hundreds of meters tall, defying the physics of what stone should do. Mist threads between them at dawn, erasing their bases entirely. The pillars float. This wasn't CGI inspiration. This was proof that Earth could outimagine Hollywood. You ride the cable car through clouds and shapes materialize without warning. A spire, then another. Then dozens, each wrapped in hanging vines and twisted pines that somehow root in vertical rock. The light shifts gold. Shadows stretch across the canyon floor 1,000 meters below. Stone forests suspended in silence. "30 million years. That's how long water has been carving through solid rock here, patient and relentless. The Yangtze stretches over 6,000 kilometers across China, the longest river in Asia. But length tells you nothing about what happens at the Three Gorges. Cliffs rise nearly vertical from the waterline. So high that sunlight reaches the river only a few hours each day. Mist clings to limestone walls at dawn, then burns away to reveal layers of rock older than the Himalayas. For 2,000 years, this water carried emperors and exiles, armies and merchants, shaping a civilization along its banks. A fishing boat rounds the bend, its red hull impossibly bright against gray stone. The current pulls it forward as it has pulled everything toward the sea. For 8 centuries, emperors traveled 1,000 miles just to see this lake. Not because it was the largest or the deepest. Because poets said it was perfect. And somehow that reputation stuck. Westlake has been shaping Chinese art since before the Roman Empire fell. A 6 square kilometer mirror that launched 1,000 scrolls. At dawn, mist clings to the water like breath on cold glass. The Leifang Pagoda emerges slowly, its silhouette sharpening as the sun climbs. Along the Sioux Causeway, weeping willows trail their fingers across the surface. In summer, lotus flowers crowd the shallows, pink against green against silver. This is the landscape Chinese painters spent lifetimes trying to capture? A rowboat glides past, oars dipping without sound. For 800 years, this town had no walls. While every other Chinese city fortified against invasion, Lijiang's rulers refused. The reason was practical, almost absurd. The ruling Mu family shared their name with the Chinese character for wood. Add walls, and wood becomes trapped. So they left their city open, vulnerable. And somehow it survived. Tea caravans arrived from the south, bound for Tibet, their horses loaded with bricks of compressed leaves. The canals still run where they always have. Channeling snowmelt from the Jade Dragon Peak that rises behind the rooftops. At golden hour, the water turns copper. Naxi women in traditional blue gather near the bridges, their ancient script. One of the last pictographic languages still in use, decorating shop signs above them. The lakes here refuse to follow the rules. Water should be blue, maybe green. But Five Flower Lake burns turquoise, amber, and jade simultaneously. Ancient tree trunks visible 20 meters down through water, so clear it seems like air. Nine Tibetan villages still dot these slopes. Their prayer flags catching wind above 100 lakes scattered across 240,000 acres of forest. At golden hour, the water becomes a mirror so perfect that mountains appear to grow both up and down, meeting at an invisible seam. "17 waterfalls feed the stillness between them. And through it all, that impossible color, shifting with every cloud that passes overhead. The pines here grow sideways. Not bending, not leaning. Sideways. Roots gripping bare granite, branches reaching into nothing but mist. For 100 million years, these peaks have been teaching trees to defy gravity. 70 summits pierce above 1,800 meters, each one wrapped in clouds so thick they move like slow water. Chinese painters spent centuries trying to capture this place, and most gave up. Convinced the mountain was inventing impossible shapes just to mock them. The welcoming guest pine has held its pose for over 1,000 years. One branch extended like an arm greeting visitors who climb through the vapor. Dawn breaks gold against the lotus peak. The sea of clouds catches fire. And the pines just keep growing wrong. At 3,700 meters above sea level, oxygen comes thin. Every breath burns. And yet someone looked at this mountain ridge and said, "Build a palace here." "13 stories of white and red stone climbing toward a sky that refuses to soften." The Potala took 49 years to complete, workers hauling materials up slopes where even mules struggled. For 3 centuries, the Dalai Lamas governed from these walls. Spiritual authority fused with political power in a single crimson tower. Below, pilgrims still circle the base at dawn, their prayer wheels spinning, their lips moving through mantras worn smooth by repetition. The palace catches first light like it's hoarding it. Gold roofs blazing against the Himalayas. 1,000 rooms. 1,000 altars. The air is still thin. "40 years ago, fishermen cast nets here. Today, a skyline of 600 buildings over 150 meters tall punctures the haze. Shenzhen didn't grow. It erupted. In 1980, this was a border town of 30,000 people. The Communist Party drew a circle on a map, called it a special economic zone, and the experiment began. Now 12 million people live where rice paddies stood. The Ping'an Tower climbs 599 meters, tallest in China, but the real action happens at street level. Huangshan, the world's largest electronics market, where you can build a smartphone from parts before lunch. Neon reflects off wet pavement. Scooters weave through crowds carrying circuit boards. The future arrived here first. It just forgot to slow down. They built this wall to keep out Mongol armies. Six centuries later, it keeps out nothing but time itself. "35 kilometers of Ming Dynasty stone snake through a modern city. One of the longest ancient fortifications still standing anywhere on Earth. Construction began in 1368. It took 200,000 workers in 21 years. At sunset, you can walk sections where the original brick still bears craftsman's stamps. Their names pressed into clay when Europe was fighting the 100 Years' War. Below, glass towers catch the same dying light. The contrast is almost violent. Imperial gates frame rush hour traffic. Temple roofs peek between apartment blocks. Elderly men practice Tai Chi on ramparts once patrolled by soldiers scanning the horizon for invasion. The invaders never came this way. Every winter, a city in northern China freezes so completely that residents carve it into art. Temperatures plunge to -40. The Songhua River becomes a playground. And from blocks of ice pulled from that frozen river, workers construct towers reaching 20 meters toward the gray sky. This is Harbin, where Russian railway engineers laid tracks in 1898 and left behind onion domes and Orthodox cathedrals that still punctuate the skyline. St. Sophia stands watch, Byzantine curves softened by snow. But when night falls on the ice festival, everything transforms. Colored lights blaze through frozen castles, ice palaces, entire sculpted cityscapes glowing blue and gold. 1 million visitors press through the cold each year, breath crystallizing, cameras fogging. The sculptures will melt by April. They always do. The planks are barely a foot wide. Below you, nothing but 2,000 meters of empty air. This is the Huashan plank walk, carved into sheer granite cliffs by Taoist monks who believed the path to enlightenment required facing death. For over 2,000 years, pilgrims have climbed this mountain, China's steepest, clinging to iron chains bolted into rock that formed when dinosaurs still walked the earth. At sunrise, mist rises through the valleys like incense smoke. The 5 peaks emerge one by one, their temples catching the first gold light. Your harness clicks against the safety cable. Your fingers find the next chain link. Each step forward is a negotiation with gravity itself. The mountain doesn't care if you're ready. You step anyway. "72 emperors climbed these steps. Not for conquest, for permission. For 3,000 years, Chinese rulers believed they couldn't legitimately rule until they'd made the ascent. Performed the sacred rites, and received heaven's blessing on this summit. Mount Tai isn't just old, it's 2 billion years old, watching dynasties rise and crumble like morning fog. 7,000 stone steps wind upward through ancient temples, past inscriptions carved by emperors desperate to prove their worth. You climb in darkness if you're wise, joining pilgrims who've made this journey since before Rome existed. Then dawn. Mist parts below like curtains. Light spills across peaks that have witnessed more coronations than any throne room. The mountain doesn't care about your title. It simply endures. The stilted houses don't touch the water. They hover above it, wooden legs planted in the Lijiang River like herons refusing to land. For 3 centuries, the Miao and Tujia people built their lives here, suspended between 2 worlds. Fenghuang wasn't meant for tourists. It was a trading post, a meeting point where minority cultures collided with Han merchants, where silver changed hands and dialects tangled in narrow alleys. Morning mist erases the bridges entirely. You hear the town before you see it. Wooden shutters creaking open. The slap of laundry against stone. Then the fog lifts, and Ming Dynasty rooftops emerge like a photograph developing in real time. At golden hour, the river turns molten. Every window glows amber. And those wooden houses finally touch their reflections. "3,000 years ago, a civilization here mastered bronze while Europe still struggled with iron. Then it vanished. The Shu Kingdom left behind golden masks and jade treasures. Buried beneath what would become one of China's most enduring cities. Chengdu has outlasted dynasties, earthquakes, and revolutions for 23 centuries. But it's not the ancient history that draws millions here each year. It's the pandas. "92 acres of bamboo forest where the world's largest population of giant pandas tumbles through morning mist, oblivious to cameras." You sip tea in a courtyard older than most nations, then watch a cub somersault into a pile of leaves. Red lanterns sway above Jinli Street as twilight settles. The smell of Sichuan peppercorn drifts. The past never left here. The locals say a girl still waits here. Ashima, who loved someone she couldn't have, turned to stone rather than surrender. That was 270 million years ago, give or take. These limestone pillars rose from an ancient seabed. Carved by water that no longer exists, shaped by pressure that would crush cities. "30 meters tall, some of them. Sharp as grief. Stretching across 350 square kilometers of earth that forgot it was ever ocean. At dawn, mist threads between the spires like something searching. Light catches edges, throws shadows that shift and breathe. You walk paths where stone crowds close, walls of gray and white pressing in. then suddenly opens to reveal formations twisted into shapes your mind wants to name. Somewhere among them, Ishima waits, stone now. Still beautiful. "300 million years. That's how long the sea took to become mountains. Before dinosaurs walked, before continents had names, ancient oceans were carving Guilin into existence. Limestone dissolved, reformed, dissolved again. And what emerged defies the logic of geology. Peaks that don't slope or roll but erupt straight from flat earth like green flames frozen mid-flicker. At dawn, mist fills the valleys between them. Fishermen pole bamboo rafts through water so still the mountains appear twice, one reaching up, one reaching down. Tang Dynasty generals once stationed armies here using these impossible spires as natural fortress walls. Poets came later, trying to capture what soldiers simply used. They're still trying. The peaks catch the first light. The river holds it. Everything else disappears. A river decided to carve through marble. Not around it. Through. For 200 million years, the Liwu has been cutting deeper, patient and relentless, until the walls rose 1,000 meters on either side. This is Three Gorge, named for the Truku people who've called these cliffs home long before anyone thought to measure them. Morning mist clings to the stone like breath. At the Eternal Spring Shrine, water cascades beside ancient architecture, the mountain weeping into the river that made it. Look down at the riverbed. The marble swirls like frozen storms beneath clear water. 300 million years of stone, waiting for the right morning. The Hangzhou Range holds dozens of peaks, but this one learned to hide. Fog pours through the valleys before dawn, erasing everything below 2,000 meters. Then the sun catches the ridgeline. For exactly 11 minutes, the summit floats alone. Disconnected from Earth, from gravity, from the century you woke up in. Local farmers still leave offerings at the trailhead, not for luck, for permission. The old stories say deities descended here to touch the world. Stand in that mist long enough, you understand why they believed it. A million years of salt and silence. That's what fills this basin, 3,000 meters above sea level. Where Tibetan pilgrims have walked the shoreline for centuries seeking the birthplace of King Gazar. The warrior king of legend, born from these waters. You reach the edge at dawn. The lake stretches impossibly far. (4,500 square kilometers of blue, so deep it pulls the mountains down into itself. Birds wheel overhead by the thousands, spring migrants following ancient routes. Salt crystals catch the first light along the shore. The Guilin peaks float white against the horizon. Cold air. Sacred water. China's largest inland sea, still keeping its secret. No cars. No bicycles. Just footsteps on cobblestone, and somewhere always a piano. Guilin earned its nickname, Piano Island, not from tourism brochures, but from history. When 13 nations carved out consulates here in the 1900s, each family brought their instruments. The music never left. Today, over 200 colonial mansions stand shoulder to shoulder, their facades a collision of Gothic spires, Portuguese tiles, and traditional Chinese courtyards. Climb Sunlight Rock at dawn. Watch the mist lift from terracotta rooftops below. Revealing a place where empires competed not with cannons, but with architecture. The buildings remain. Three canals split into 9 streams, then into countless smaller channels. The Naxi people engineered this 800 years ago without a single water pump. Every morning, residents open wooden sluice gates in sequence, flushing the entire town clean before breakfast. The system still works. You follow the water through streets paved with breccia stone, past bridges so old they've worn smooth. Tea caravans once rested here, halfway between China and Tibet, their horses drinking from these same channels. At Black Dragon Pool, the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain floats in reflection. water and stone, still conversing after 8 centuries. The fishermen here don't fish anymore. They pose. They're cormorants, birds trained for centuries to dive and retrieve. Now perform for tourists while the real catch comes from aquaculture farms downstream. Yet at dawn, before the bamboo rafts crowd the water, something older emerges. Karst peaks rise like teeth from the mist. Their reflections, so perfect the river becomes a mirror folding sky into earth. Farmers still plant rice in the same plots their ancestors worked when traders passed through carrying silk to the coast. You drift through, and the limestone towers multiply. Endless. Ancient. Indifferent to who watches. Somewhere in these mist-wrapped mountains, 28 gibbons hold the fate of their entire species. The rarest primates on Earth, found nowhere else. China's largest island was once where the empire sent its criminals. Political exiles banished to what officials called the edge of civilization. Now, scientists track every birth, every call echoing through the canopy. The rainforest climbs toward Wuzhishan's peaks, dense and ancient, while beaches below glow turquoise at Yilong Bay. Sunrise catches the cliffs at Nanshan Temple, light spilling across the South China Sea. "28 voices in the trees. Counting. At 3,650 meters, the air itself becomes a test. Visitors gasp. Pilgrims prostrate themselves across stone, breath by labored breath. Toward a temple that has drawn the faithful for 13 centuries. Lhasa sits higher than any capital on Earth, where oxygen runs thin but devotion never does. Prayer flags snap in wind that tastes of ice. Butter lamps flicker inside Jiuzhaigou Temple, their smoke curling toward gold rooftops. The Potala Palace catches last light, white walls burning amber. Before Las Vegas existed, before Monte Carlo became a playground, Portuguese sailors claimed a sliver of Chinese coast. 1557. Europe's first foothold in East Asia. 4 centuries later, 21,000 people squeeze into every square kilometer, making this one of Earth's densest places. Senado Square's Portuguese tiles meet Chinese temple incense. egg tarts blend with dim sum. The ruins of Sing. Paul stands skeletal against casino towers, Baroque stone framing neon. Golden hour paints colonial facades in amber while gondolas drift through air-conditioned canals. They've been perfecting the same garden for 500 years. Not building, perfecting. Every rock placed to frame a moon reflection. Every window cut to capture a specific branch. Suzhou's classical gardens aren't landscapes. They're arguments in stone and water. Each element positioned to prove that nature can be composed like music. Golden light filters through lattice corridors. Koi scatter beneath bridges older than most nations. You don't visit these gardens. You enter a philosophy made visible. China revealed itself as a tapestry of ancient wisdom and modern ambition, where every corner holds stories that have shaped civilizations for millennia. If you're ready to explore more hidden corners of our world, subscribe and let's keep discovering together.